first cakes were very similar to bread. The Romans sometimes added egg or butter and sweetened dough with honey, sometimes with nuts or dried fruit. A prime feature was its shape, round and flat, shaped by hand into a ball, and the dough naturally relaxed into a circular shape. By the 17th century, cake hoops were being used to cook cakes. The tins were made of wood or tin. These ensured that the cake kept a neat, round shape. Wedding cakes. They began in the Roman Empire. They were first a loaf of bread that the groom broke over the bride's head as a symbol of his dominance in the marriage over her. In the medieval era, cakes were often unsweetened bread. Cakes were stacked in front of the newlyweds. The couple was to kiss in front of them without knocking them over. Success was a sign that there would be many children in the future. They reached their popularity in the 1800s. A famous wedding cake of the time was Princess Louise, Queen Victoria's daughter. The cake stood 5 foot high and weighed 225 pounds. Multi-tiered cakes were originally reserved for English royalty. They would also use the top tier for christenings, as the wedding and the christening would take place very near to each other. This fact rationalised the thought that all cakes should have 3 tiers. The bottom for the wedding reception, the second for the guests, and the top for the christening. The joint cutting of the cake is to symbolise the first joint task in married life. Feeding cake to one another is a symbol of commitment. Today, wedding cake toppers are a representation of the bride and groom in their wedding dress. In the UK, the traditional wedding cake is made from rich fruit cake, although many modern cakes now consist of vanilla sponge, chocolate sponge, or carrot cake. Most cakes are between 3 and 5 tiers in height. They often consist of a bottom tier made from sponge, chocolate sponge middle tier, and fruit top tier. Another tradition is wedding cupcakes. They are placed on a stand and used instead of a wedding cake. Here is a recipe for a chocolate cake. The left side shows the ingredients, the middle the cost to make it in 1962, and the right the cost to make it in 2012. It cost £2.27 more to make it in 1962 than it would today. It cost 12p more per slice in 1962. Tea cost 50p more in 1962 and coffee 3p more. To have a cup of tea and a slice of cake, in 1962 that would have cost you £1.23, but now it would only cost you 51p. Preheat the oven to 160 degrees. You will need to prepare your baking tins. Line them with baking parchment. Place the bowl with 125 grams of dark chocolate over the stove of simmering water. Add 3 tablespoons of milk and continue mixing until it is melted. Beat 150 grams of butter until it is soft. Add the caster sugar, 150 grams. Beat until light and fluffy. Add 3 eggs, but 1 at a time, and beat them into the mixture. Add in the melted chocolate. You will need to fold this in. When finished doing so, you'll need to add 200 grams of plain flour. Add 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You need to fold all this in. Divide the mixture between 2 tins. Spread them out evenly. Place them in the oven and bake them for 25 minutes. Remove the cakes from the oven when they are done. You'll tell they are done by touching them and they should be light and springy. Place them on a cooling rack and remove them from the tins. Place 100 grams of chocolate in a bowl over the simmering water. Add 1 tablespoon of golden syrup and 25 grams of butter. Mix it until it is melted. Take the parchment paper off from the bottom of one of the cakes. Then put a thin coating layer of the chocolate icing on top of the first cake. Take the parchment paper off the second cake and place that on top of the first cake. Then pour your icing over the top and spread it out smoothly for an even consistency. The tradition of birthday cake started in Germany in the Middle Ages. In England, people used to place symbolic objects like coins, rings and thimbles in the batter of the cake. It was believed that those who found the coin in the cake would be wealthy, while the unlucky who found the thimble would never marry. If the cake fell whilst baking, it was considered to be a bad omen and signified bad luck for the person in the coming year. The tradition of placing candles on birthday cakes is attributed to the early Greeks, who placed lit candles on cakes to make them glow like the moon. They believed that the smoke of the candles carried their wishes and prayers to the gods. Now it is believed that blowing out the candles in one breath means that the wish will come true and the person will enjoy good luck in the coming year. Christmas cake is a type of round, rich fruit cake covered in marzipan icing. 6 pence used to be added to the mixture as a good luck symbol to those who found it. Christening cake is traditionally made with fruit. Parents often use the top tier of their wedding cake for their first child's christening. They are made to look similar to wedding cakes. Usually they are decorated with white icing with pastel coloured decorations. It was traditionally shaped like a cross. Passover cake. Sponge cakes are popular because they are not leavened with yeast. They are typically made with matzo meal, matzo flour or potato flour, as they can't use raw wheat products. Raising agents are also not to be used due to the appearance of having the leavening effect. Most families pass a recipe down generations. Typical flavourings include pecans, almonds, lemon, poppy seeds, apples and dark chocolates. Orange juice and apple juice are often used as the liquid ingredient, as milk can't be used in dessert that is served after a meat-based meal. Victoria sponge cake is named after Queen Victoria. She favoured a slice of sponge cake with her afternoon tea. A typical Victoria sponge consists of raspberry jam and whipped double cream, or vanilla cream sandwiched between the two cakes. A dusting of icing sugar is sprinkled over the top. They are known to be sensitive to cooking times and temperatures. Other manufacturers often use a Victoria sandwich cake recipe to test their ovens.